world confusing, congested? Are you just trying to find your way? There must be a light at the end of this tunnel. Well, there's a way to find your calling, to find that job you want and deserve, when someone will come up to you and say, "You're hired." Hi, I'm Steve Piazzale, a career life coach, and welcome to You're Hired, a show about jobs and careers in which we answer questions such as, how do I find work that makes me come alive? How do I get that job I want and deserve? How do I deal with all this stress in the workplace? Well, we're going to answer those questions and many more by having on the show knowledgeable, lively guests, and we have one such guest today. Bob Stahl has a Ph.D. in religion and philosophy. He's the director of stress reduction programs and workshops all throughout the Bay Area. He's been a nearly lifetime meditator and was in a Buddhist monastery for over 8 years. But his main work these days is to use meditation and awareness to help people lower their stress level, and hopefully he'll impart some of that with us today. I want to welcome Bob Stahl to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi, Bob. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Hopefully not too stressed, otherwise we have to employ our own methods here. What I thought we would do is just start by maybe having you talk a little bit about the work you do and how you came to it and your passion for it, and then we'll dig deeper into it, but just start maybe at the higher level.
Yeah, I work in various hospitals providing what's called mindfulness-based stress reduction programs at El Camino Hospital in Mountain View, O'Connor Hospital in San Jose, and 2 hospitals in Santa Cruz, at Santa Cruz Medical Clinic and Dominican Hospital, and most recently at Community Hospital of Monterey Peninsula. Mm-hmm. And I originally came to this work about 13 years ago, and this program is modeled after a program that was developed at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who's a popular author that wrote books such as Full Catastrophe Living and Wherever You Go, There You Are.
Great titles, huh?
Yes.
And how about your passion for the work? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, my passion for this work is related to my life experience, and from a very early age, I grew up in the 60s outside of Boston, and I had a lot of death in my early childhood. I lost a younger brother, a best friend, later a grandfather. By the time I was 12 years old, I had some significant losses.
Oh my.
And after graduating high school, this was in the height of the Vietnam era, I was really somewhat lost, really wanting to know more, understand more about the meaning of life. And this eventually led me to meditation and studying philosophy and religion, and ultimately living in a Buddhist monastery for over 8 years as a Buddhist monk and also as a lay person helping in the monastery.
What were your thoughts at that point? I mean, in the monastery, did you feel that that would be what you would be doing? I hate to say the rest of your career. Is being a monk a career? I'm not sure. But
yeah, well, you know, at the time I was planning on being a monk, and some events happened that changed the course of my life. While I was living in the monastery, I also wanted to do some community work, which is also, you know, an important aspect of, you know, living in a monastery, also helping in the community. We're not meant to be cloistered from the Buddhist tradition, and so I volunteered and did some work with hospice, and I ended up taking care of a woman my age that was dying of a brain tumor.
Oh my gosh. Like someone in their 30s or 30s?
Yeah, this was in her early 30s, and I ended up actually moving in and taking care of her and became her primary caregiver, as well as I unexpectedly fell in love with her. And I actually took care of her till she died in my arms. And this was quite a powerful experience, I should say, in my life. And after this woman died, I befriended a hospice nurse that was there helping in the situation. And this hospice nurse and I became very friendly. Mm-hmm. And within 4 months, we got married. And it's been actually 15 years now.
Oh my.
Which is, and And so there was an unexpected turn of events. I was planning to stay in the monastery and be a monk, and my heart became opened. And so after leaving the monastery, I needed to work, and I hadn't worked in about 10 years. And I was very fortunate to get a job at a stroke center. And part of my job as a counselor at the stroke center was to work with people with stroke and Parkinson's and MS and so forth, and helping them to learn some relaxation techniques. And I began teaching them some of the meditation practices I had learned in the monastery, and saw that...
And this is the part we really want to start. Excuse me for interrupting
sure,
here,
no
but
problem.
The thing that I find inspiring, and I want you to tell the full story, is how you were able to slowly develop that calling and stick to your guns and do something you cared about, because I think we have viewers and the people that I coach that I know that say, that's unrealistic, I can't possibly do that. So I love this part you're going into, and tell it in full detail how you actually built a career around that. That's so interesting.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll tell you, I mean, outside of the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, where people were salaried to work in these mindfulness stress reduction programs, this had not even started in the state of California. But when I was working at the Stroke Center, an ex-monk friend of mine sent me a book of John Kabat-Zinn's called Full Catastrophe Living, and I read this book, and I couldn't believe that he had put together this program based on mindfulness meditation and working with people living with stress, pain, and illness. And I wrote back to him saying I would love to do this, and he actually called me back a couple of weeks later and said, I wrote this book for people like you, and please come and visit me at UMass Medical Center, which I actually happened to do a couple months later because I grew up, as I said, outside of Boston. And when I saw their program, I said, I just have to do this. And it was very difficult because in the state of California at the time, there was no mindfulness-based stress reduction program, but I was very fortunate.
There were meditators, though, right? It was transcendental meditation or some kind of meditation.
There was different meditations that were happening, but no one had actually worked with bringing mindfulness meditation into a medical setting.
That's true.
Modeling John Kabat-Zinn's work. And I was very fortunate to befriend a physician who's become a very close friend, and through his help, he was actually able to help champion getting a program started at first at the Santa Cruz Medical Clinic. And after teaching there for a few months, another friend of mine was friends with a physician in El Camino Hospital, a surgeon that had heard about my work from my friend of doing stress reduction programs in Santa Cruz, and he called me saying, I want you to start a program in El Camino. And
wow.
I was able to start a program there, and then it began to snowball. And you know, one thing that I just really knew from all my years living in the monastery, I was very clear I wanted to make my life work to include my meditation practice, as well as working with people living with stress, pain, and illness from my experiences with hospice. And in the early years, I had just my vision to rely on, and I held it. And I really wanted to invite those that are, you know, seeing this show right now to maintain your vision, that the vision of what you want is so important and that it can become manifest.
And how do you think that happens? Do you think that that's from the meditation, that you just were really clear inside what it is you wanted to do, and that gave you the resolution to go forward? Or how does a person find what that is and then really stick to it as part of themselves?
Well, you know, I think it's a matter of each of our own personalities. I mean, maybe the world would call me a very unpractical person because in school I ended up studying and majoring in philosophy and religion because I decided that I was interested, I wanted to study what I was interested in, not how much money it was going to make me.
Right.
And I've always, in some sense, molded my life around, I want to do something that's meaningful. And to tell you the truth, in the early years, Steve, I would pay to do the work that I was doing.
Oh my
but
gosh,
now
that's wonderful.
I'm really blessed that I do get paid for this. I'll also say that mindfulness-based stress reduction teachers are not making a killing, and it's a challenge living, of course, in California and mortgages and so forth, but I am making it, and also I get the rewards of really helping to make a difference in people's lives, and that type of pay is priceless.